Hello team, welcome back. And in this section, we will learn about how we can deal with the Excel files using the Python. So we will see how we can perform the different operations on the Excel file using the Python. Now, very first, we need to understand why we need to work with the Excel files in a Python. So while you are working in automation testing, you need to deal with two kind of data, the static data and dynamic data, or we can call it dynamic test data. Now, what is this static data and what is the dynamic test data or the dynamic data in automation testing? So, the static data, very first, let's talk about this static data. In the static data, there could be the n number of type of data, like you are defining the path of the files, you are defining the web element address, you are defining the browser locations. There could be the n number of things. But what is this dynamic data? This dynamic data could be the test data. Whatever the data you are supplying to your test as a test data, that could be the dynamic. It may possible while you are executing the login test, you may need to execute your login test with 5 set of data where the correct username, correct password, incorrect username, correct password, correct username, incorrect password, correct username, blank username, correct password. There could be the n number of combinations which you can perform the login test. For the understanding, we are taking the example of the login test. So here you see, although we are executing the same test, we are executing the same code, but every time the data is different. That is the dynamic data or dynamic test data. So while you are working with the dynamic test data, you need to store that dynamic test data at some place. So now the storage form of the test data is all depends on your organization policies or as per your architecture. The mostly used solution for the test data storage is either the Excel file or the JSON. So either you can store that kind of data in the Excel and you are reading the data from the Excel, you are writing down the data for the Excel for the upcoming test cases, or you can work with the JSON. JSON is another popular data structure where generally you store the test data. So this is the importance. That's why we are reading and writing of Excel files, because using the Excel files, we may or may not be reading the test data in our future frameworks. So let's see how we can work with the Excel files in Python. To work with the Excel files in the Python don't have any native library available with the default installation. With the default installation, there is no native library which is available for the Excel handling in the Python. Now there are n number of Python libraries available on the internet using which you can basically work with the Excel. The most famous is a Panda. You can use the Pandas library to work with the Excel. There is the another library called OpenPI Excel. This is the another very famous library to work with the Excel files in the Python, and we are going to use this external library OpenPI Excel. So the OpenPy Excel is the Python library that can be used to read and write the Excel files. These are the few format of the files which you can read write with the OpenPy Excel, which is XLSX, and there are few others. So whenever I mentioned that the OpenPy Excel is not coming with the default installation of the Python, it means we need to install it over the Python installation. And you can install the OpenPy Excel with the tool pip tool. There is a pip tool available in the Python using which you can install the OpenPy Excel on your machine. So let's see how we can work with the Excels in Python. So we are in the code editor and I will create a new folder in my Python basic, create a directory, read write Excel. In this directory, first I will create a new file and call it write excel.py. This is the Python file we created. Let me minimize this terminal. Now, as I told you that what is the module we need to use? We need to use the OpenPy Excel. This is the module. Now, there are multiple ways to install this module. First way is you need to open your terminal. In your terminal, you need to type pip hyphen hyphen version. This will show you the pip version on your machine. I am using the pip version 18.1. Right now, the pip version is available on my machine is 18.1, but that is basically pointing to the Python 2.7. So Python 3, there is another tool called pip 3. You can execute the pip 3 hyphen hyphen version. And yes, the pip 3 have the version pip 22.3.1, which is pointing to the Python 3.11. So very first you can verify that the pip or pip 3 is available on your machine, and you can also verify that which Python it is basically pointing. as latest we are working with the Python 3, so you must use the pip version which is compatible with your Python. So if your pip is pointing to the Python 3x version, you can use the pip, otherwise you can use the pip 3. If pip is already not installed on your machine, then you can install the pip, you can get the help from the Google. For the Windows user, obviously there is no terminal, you can use your command prompt and the command will be same. So verify, let's check if the OpenPI Excel is available or not. So we will type pip3 list, hit enter. This will list out all the packages which are basically available. So we don't have much packages, we only have the setup tools and the pip available as a pip3 installation. So to install the Open Excel, what you need to do, you need to execute a command pip3 install OpenPI Excel like this. Once you will execute this command, this will basically install this package, this library and the dependent library. The command will be same for the Windows user, Mac user and the Linux user. As I told you, the command will be same for the Windows user, Mac user and the Linux user. On the Windows, you can execute the same command from your command prompt. On the Linux and Mac, you can execute the same command from your terminal. But if you are using the editor, like we are using the PyCharm, there is a one more way. You can simply type command import, then your package. You are getting the error over here. Let's keep your mouse here. And it is providing you a option to install the package OpenPyXL. Now it's all up to you. Either you can install the OpenPyXL like this using the pip, or you can go to your editor and click this button install package OpenPyXL. Right, so you can use any way. I will simply go over here and click on the install package OpenPyXL like this. Over here in the bottom, you are saying a message installing package OpenPyXL. Let me show you the progress. So it is basically showing the progress. The package installation is successfully done. You see it is indexing the package and this is done. Over here, the error, what we was getting, that is gone. Right now it is able to import the OpenPyXL. Now let's see how we can write the Excel files. Right, so very first we need to define the path. Let's define the path, at which particular path you want to write down your Excel files. So let's see, within the current working directory reader Excel files, I will declare a new directory called file data. And I will store all my files over here within this file data. So I will define the path. In the path, first I will receive the path of my current working directory. So I will import the OS package. I will type os dot get cwd. Now concatenate this with the path file data. Now after the file data, provide your file name. Suppose I am providing sample.xlsx. This is the file extension. So I believe every one of you have already seen that what is the Excel format. If you have not seen, let me show you. So this is the default UI of the Excel. This thing is called the column. So there are multiple column A, B, C and up to n number of column. And this thing called the row. This is the first row, this is the second row, this is the third row and fourth row. Over here you are getting the sheet. This is called the worksheet. This is called the worksheet, and you can define multiple sheets in your single Excel file. So over here you see we have the file sheet. This is the first sheet. If I will define some data over here, that will be associated with the sheet 1. With the sheet 2 we don't get the same data. With the sheet 3 we don't get the same data. So every sheet will have its own data, and within a single Excel file there could be the n number of sheets. This particular thing is called the column, this particular thing is called the row, and a single unit, this is called the cell. So this is a cell of column B, row number 4. This is the cell of column C, row number 6. So this is the basic layout of the Excel file. Now while we are working with the Python code, we will follow the same convention. Very first you need to create the object of the workbook. So workbook is your Python file. So we will create the workbook object like wb equals to open excel dot workbook like this. Once the object of the workbook will be created, you need to activate the sheet. How we can activate the sheet? We can activate the sheet using sheet, take the workbook object, call active. Right, so what we are doing, we created the object of the sheet. Now in this particular sheet I can create the data. So if I will go to the Excel, see this is the column and this is the row A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. So on the sheet we can define the data like sheet colon a1, capital A1 equals to, define some data like 1 2 3. Similarly copy this statement, define a2, a3, a4. We in the a2 we are defining some string, like we are defining some city name. Over here we are defining some float number. Over here again I'm defining some integer. Let's define the date as well. So we will create the object of the date. So I will call import date or import time, right? We will use the date equals to time dot strf time frame and use like percentile x. This will define the date. Let's update it sheet a3, a4, keep the a5 over here and assign the date item or date object to this a5 like this. So over here till particular this point we have defined the data within the column A. So first we created the file path. We have not used this. We created the object of the workbook. On the workbook we activated a sheet, and on this sheet we are basically filling the data. Once you will do all these things, you need to save your sheet. And to save the sheet, you need to call the workbook object wb dot, and over here to the save function you need to provide the path of your file like this. So we have the complete code ready. You see, first we are defining the path, the current code directory, the current working directory, which is read Excel file in which we have my Python code. And within the current working directory, we have the directory file data, which is this. And within this file data, we are creating a new file sample.xlsx. Here we are creating the object of the workbook, and on the object, we are activating that object. Then we are storing some data on the A1 up to 5 rows, and then we are saving that data in a Excel file. Let's execute this code. So the code is executed and we are getting the exit code 0. If you will open the file data, you see the new sample.xls file is being created over here. Let's open this file because I'm using the Mac operating system and this don't have the Microsoft Office installed, so that I'm getting the output like this. Here you see we are getting the sheet and we are getting the data in first 5 row, 1 2 3 4 5, and the same data I have put in my program. So this is the way how you can write down the Excel files in the Python, right? This is the way how we can write down the Excel files in the Python. This is the simple code. So today we have seen how we can install the library and how we can use this particular library. In the coming lecture, we will see a lot of operations which we can perform on the Excel files in a Python. Thank you team. See you next time.